other's existence. But that's how it is. Okay.
Yes, yes.
And
Yes.
I'm sure you'll have a very engaging 1.5 hours, whatever, however she takes it. Please enjoy, and some things, please remember what you will learn now. Sometimes you might not understand immediately, but down the line it will start making more and more sense to you. So
Yes.
ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಮೆಲ್ಕ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಆ ತರ if you go on like chewing the cud, bringing it out,
Yes.
and this will work for you. Okay,
Yes.
so please have an engaging session. I've logged in from home, so I log out and come to college. Okay, see you all.
Yeah. Thank you
Uh,
so much,
Welcome,
Sapna
Nandita.
ma'am. Always a pleasure to come back to your college and always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that really nice introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy, guys.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Ma'am,
everyone,
just one second.
pardon? Sure.
1 second. Yeah. Guys,
Sure.
I request you to kindly keep your cameras on throughout the session. It will be an sorry. Yeah. So just kindly keep your cameras on so that, ma'am, it can be an interactive session. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I think you
Yeah.
can go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. If you don't communicate with each other in a communication class, then where else will we do it? So please, if you guys don't mind, can I quickly see a show of face? It's hard to talk to a black box. Thank you. Hi Anshul. Hi Syed. Visishta. Correct? Did I get that right? Hi. Hi Diksha. Hi Chandana. Thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Prithvi, Anjali, hi. Kishan.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, hi.
Hello, hello, ma'am.
Hi. Chandana, hi. Aishwarya.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi. Diksha and yeah, there's one more Sanjana. All right. Thank you guys so much for logging in and keeping your cameras on. Aishwarya and Naga Hemika and Sanjana. I think the three of them are there. Yashika. Nice to meet you, Yashika. Okay.
Nice to meet you, ma'am.
All right. So I think we're all good to start. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
shall we?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, fantastic. Give me a minute. 1 second. 1 second. I still see people joining in, so I'm just sort of waiting for a minute. Okay, I'm going to start my presentation. Are you all able to hear me fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. All right. Okay. Fantastic. And I'm just going to share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So, welcome everyone to today's talk on what I have termed it as 3 V's of communication. It's vocalize, verbalize, and visualize. Through the lecture, you will understand what are these 3 V's, what is the role it plays, and why is it that today in an induction program, when I've joined architecture, do I really need to understand these 3 points and probably even remember it for life, okay? At the onset, I will like to thank Sapna ma'am again and all her wonderful teachers Thanks for inviting me to your college and giving me this opportunity to share my expertise and knowledge. Like I've said, it's always a pleasure to come back to your college. And what better than start with the first years, right? All right. So this session is going to be highly interactive. So I will need you guys to keep talking and responding in between because, hey, like I've said, this is all about communication. So I would need your responses, preferably really quick. Otherwise, it might delay our uh, whole lecture. So what do you guys see on the screen right now? What do you think is happening? Do you all
Ships.
recognize what it is?
Sheep.
Flock of sheep.
Yes, they're all sheep. But what is different? What is happening here? Can you notice?
They're passing
They
through the
all are
gate.
going out through one point.
Great, they're all going through one point. But there's also another detail. Look a little closer.
Even though the fence is open, they're passing through that gate.
Can you be a little louder?
Like even though there's no fence around, they're just passing through one point. The
Absolutely.
gate.
So can you see my cursor? There is absolutely no fence here. There's nothing that is stopping them from going anywhere. All these sheep can as well go out like this, but every one of the sheep that is going out through this gate. Do you all notice this?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So this is what we call as the trap of thinking. Okay. So although there's really no need for the sheep to follow this point, they could have very well chosen their own path. Most often, this is what we call as herd mentality or sheep mentality, that if one sheep does it, the entire flock and the entire herd tends to repeat and follow the same thing. The reason why I'm bringing it up as my very first slide is maybe for most of you or many of you, or I'm sure at least a few of you have selected architecture because you wanted a path that is different, not from the regular engineering, not from the regular run of the mill kind of a course. So your reason to sort of take up architecture could also be because you didn't want to be one among the sheep who, sort of get graduated as an engineer or, do the same kind of courses, and you wanted to be different. So you're all sort of setting out today in this course with a very, very different, hopeful mindset that I'm going to be different. But guess what? 5 years down the line, we may all end up being the sheep, except that we are all going to be the sheep of architecture and may not be in any other course. The reason I'm putting it up here is I want you all to be extremely aware and clear that you don't fall into the trap of thinking the same way even in a course like architecture. It happens very often. By the time you get into your third year or fourth year, you get into the rut of the whole things. And somewhere the spark that you all joined with in the first year, maybe because it's a little longer course, maybe because it's a very demanding course, it tends to happen that you all become similar. So I'm putting this out to sort of warn you guys to have this antenna up saying, I'm here because I'm different and I'm here to maintain what makes me different. And I'm not going to be one of the sheep that I see in this picture. Is this clear?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
So the going ahead from the trap of thinking, the next thing that I want you all to understand is how prepared are we for this architecture course? Because often, like I've said, each one of you have your own reasons for taking up this course. But what you should keep asking yourself, at least in the first year or the first semester, is how ready am I for this course? What is it that I should prepare for? Because your first semester becomes the foundation course for the rest of the 5 years. What is it that I should learn and watch out for in this one semester or the first year itself? Okay. So, one of the main things that tends to happen in a course like architecture, which is highly subjective and it requires a lot of creativity, is the cartoon that you see on the right. Can you all please read that really quick? Yeah, do you understand what is happening? Are you all able to read this?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
So often you might end up being this person who's saying, you know what, I've stayed up the whole night, I've put in so much of hard work, I did so much for my drawings, I did so much for this project, I gave you so many sheets. Hey, why is it that my work is not okay? But then you might have your teacher saying, you know what, I didn't even ask you for coffee, I asked you for tea. So the point I'm trying to make here is that you need to be extremely communicative and understanding of what is happening in the course. What is it that your teacher is wanting you to do? What is it that the project is wanting you to do? And is your understanding and perception of the project and what the teacher has told you in the same page? So this brings us to the next point, that you, when you don't get it, when you don't understand, especially in the initial semesters, you should be willing enough to ask. You cannot get something that you don't ask for. So this is the first preparedness that you need to pick up in a course like this with respect to communication. It is hard to get something that you've never asked for. A lot of terminologies, a lot of concepts might be completely different and new. You might have picked up a few things because all of you would have done NATA. In the course of doing it, you might have picked up a few things, but it is still a course, a professional course in itself, and it's going to be different. So do pick up the habit of saying, I don't know, can you please explain? Can you please make me understand? And you're not going to look dumb. I would rather give tea when tea is asked for. I would rather give coffee when coffee is asked for. Are you all with me so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. Great. So the next thing is, I'm sure this is a cartoon that many of you would have seen. It is quite popular in Insta and other social media. It is how our education system sort of treats all of us who are very, very different the same way. So all said and done, it is more relevant right now in this course of architecture because each one of us brings a very different strength to this course. Some of us might be good in sketching, some of us might be good in thinking, some of us are good in painting, crafts. Each one of us have bring a strength of our own into this course. But at the end of the day, we all have to pick up a certain set of knowledge. At the end of the course, there are 4 things that you will pick up when you graduate as an architect. One of the major things being the knowledge. So this is the technical know-how which your college is going to impart to you. Talent is something that you're born with or something that you develop on your own. And personal traits, like I'm a very calm person, I'm a short-tempered person, I manage my time well, no, I procrastinate a lot. All of that is your personal traits. And the one on the left is something that you need to keep working on by yourself. It's not going to be possible for your college to sort of, start working on that. There's another huge component which is important for you to pick up as an architect is the skill sets. Now, what are these skill sets? Writing, talking, non-verbal communication, time management, effective communication. All of this you will realize, and of course, there are a lot of other things like software skills. Skills could be also in terms of teamwork. It could be leadership skills. There will be a lot other skill sets that you need to pick up. And this primarily comes from self-learning. It'll come from observation, it'll come from motivation, it'll come from initiatives that you take on yourself. This is not something that any college will per se teach you consciously. Subconsciously, in the course of your assignments, in the course of a lot of projects that you do or your classwork, it may get built in. But it's very, very important that you pick up these skill sets as a self-learning exercise on your own. And communication is one of the biggest, and the most important skill set that you have to pick up in this course of architecture, which is why there is a dedicated slot today in your induction program for this topic. Are we together so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks. So this is how life was before the pandemic, right? I mean, we were all sort of so hooked onto our phones that, hey, even if somebody needed help, we'd probably take a selfie first and going and helping the person out. And lo and behold, after the pandemic, this is what life has become today. We're also glued to our digital media that it's not about taking notes anymore. It's about taking screenshots. That's like the saddest part of life today. So the point I'm trying to make here is that till we go back to our old life, which is the physical classes, you're going to be conversing a lot through the digital media. And this makes it difficult and easy. The difficult part is there is a very large amount of tactility to architecture. Holding your pencil, holding your drawing, sitting at the drawing board, doing your sketches, doing your drawings, building your model. There's a lot of tactility that this profession demands and needs, which gets flattened out when you're seeing it through a screen. So you will have to be careful as to how you will keep that communication and the contact real for yourself. So it could be between your classmates, it could be with your teacher and yourself, it could be between you and your project. How real you make it is really up to you. Okay. And you need to communicate and ask and reach out much more, and do not let this digital screen sort of be this unseen buffer that holds you back from learning. Yeah, so this is a point that I wanted to make here. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, great. So before we actually start off with the content today, there are a few pointers that I want to quickly get all of us to agree to. So one thing, I want all of you to agree to be yourself. This is just not for today, for this lecture, but in general for your entire course. You're not here to impress anybody, and trust me, architecture is such a profession that you will not be able to impress this person throughout the 5 years. It's going to be very hard. Okay, so the simplest thing is be yourself. You're here to learn, you're not here to impress. So be yourself, go on with the way you are, and pick up the right skills at the right time and get yourself to become a better person. So even in this 1 hour talk, I want you to be here, I want you to be yourself. Okay, you're not here to impress me. So hey, let's all relax and enjoy here. Then no question is a dumb question. It is your doubt, it is your clarification that you need. So please feel free to ask your questions. If it's something very, very significant, ask me immediately. I will respond to it. Otherwise, we could discuss at the end of the session. And when we are interacting, please do not be judgmental of each other. Again, this is the golden rule in communication. Talk first, decide later. Okay, so when you're interacting with a person, say your friend ends up asking a question which maybe according to you is silly, so let's not go giggle, because that's going to sort of break the morale of your classmate. Let us hold back our judgment of each other. Let us respect each other's point of view and give everybody an opportunity to come forward. But having said that, do not overhog attention. So this is the danger of liberty, is people taking too much attention than what they need. And like I said, we are going to be doing a couple of exercises in this interaction, and I want you to do it completely without any hesitation. And I'm sure there's going to be some amount of learning that comes out from it. And the other thing is, do you see this line which says, let us try to be clear and expressive? Can you see this line?
Yes,
Great.
ma'am.
So the thing with the Gen Z is that where you all belong. You're after the millennials, right? Your generation. So the main thing with Gen Z that I've seen when I work with you all is your ability to express. So most of the time it is like, basically, I kind of like it. It's cool. It's nice. Bro, it's so legit, right? These are the kind of words that you sort of use all the time, right? Am I correct in this? Your language is very different from the rest of us.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So there is a coolness to it. I understand. It makes you belong to your age group. You guys have defined a new dictionary for yourself, a certain terminology. Like I would be wondering what legit is for the longest time I've known the word. But the point here is that try and express in a way that everybody understands. So there is a normal way that everybody talks. There is a clarity with which everybody talks. So make it a point to practice talking that way and writing that way and communicating that way, because where you will be stumped is when you have to do your presentations to your teachers or to the architects who come and supervise your work, or who come to your juries, and you will be fumbling for words at that point. You will be wondering, you'll almost, get a point wherein you say, hey, this is so cool, or bro, I don't agree with you. You don't want to be saying a term like that in a place like your jury. And to get to that point where the clarity of thoughts come clearly and you're not stumbling for words, you need to express your thought very, very accurately, articulately, right from the beginning. Okay, so we'll use this session as a practice for that. So what I'm trying to give you today is just like a small tidbit of what is in store for you later. And like I said, let's try and keep the video on for the session, because it's going to be very boring to be the only one to be talking for one long hour. And an interactive session is any day much more interesting. So you're all set to have a engaging session with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get started. Your first activity, I'm just going to read out a few phrases, and I want you to guess what I am talking about. Okay, I'm only going to read it out or say it out. All right, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So I'm talking about something, and this something is very juicy and firm. It's got a very sweet, fruity kind of a smell. It's also got a very tropical feel to it. You can chop it or you can bite into it, and it's sort of got a waxy layer on it. Any guesses what it is?
An apple.
Bubblegum.
I can't hear you.
Strawberry.
Maybe a little louder.
Apple.
An apple. Fantastic. What was the giveaway for it to be an apple? At what point did you all guess that it is an apple?
Waxy layer.
Waxy layer.
Waxy layer. Fantastic. Was it the same point for everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So there is one point at which your entire guessing hinged on. If I didn't give you the waxy layer, if I just said it's juicy and firm, it's fruity, it's got a sweet smell, it's got a tropical feel, it could be anything. Even if I said chop and bite, it could even be a banana, right? So the most important giveaway for this communication of an apple was the waxy layer. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
just hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it. Can you read this, whatever it is written here? What am I talking about here? It is an edible fruit produced by a tree. This is not something that I've made up. This is what is there on Wikipedia. It is cultivated worldwide. It's got a lot of species. It originated in Central Asia, where it is found even today. It has been grown for thousands of years in Asia and Europe, and it was brought to North America by European colonists. It has religious and mythological significance. What are we talking about here?
History.
Correct. But what is this it that this writing keeps talking about? You see this it?
Apple.
Apple again. Why? What makes you think it's an apple again?
Cedar production.
Cedar production. Okay, the last word. What else? Anybody else wants to take a? Do you all feel that it is apple? Do you all agree with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you be a little louder, please?
Yes, ma'am. It's an apple.
It's an apple. Great. Why is it an apple?
Same thing. Cedar production.
Okay. Anybody else who agrees with her or disagrees with her? Remember, we all decided to be ourselves. You're not obligated to agree. It could be wrong also.
Ma'am, I think so. Apple seeds contain cyanide.
Okay.
That's why cedar production is also
Okay.
unacceptable.
Okay. So you're convinced that it is an apple again, that this write-up is talking about. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody else has anything else to add on? Remember, we've all made a pledge to be very interactive and open in the session.
Breed for various tastes and use. There are many varieties of apples.
Yeah, there could be many varieties of orange also. Orange also has seeds. Orange is also grown in Central Asia. Why an apple? Come on, somebody refute me. I mean, you've got to make me
Hello.
more convinced that it is an apple.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Apple is the only fruit which produces cider.
Okay, so I think all of us are coming down to this one word then, right? Like how you hooked on to the waxy layer when I was reading it out. I think in this entire write-up, all of you are moving towards the word cedar production. Did I get that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
All right. There is also another clue word. You see this religious and mythological significance?
Yes, ma'am.
This is
ma'am.
another clue. What did the Eve offer Adam?
Forbidden fruit apple.
Yes, right. So, yes, you're all right. What we're talking about is the great apple, after all, the simple, popular, common fruit of apple. Now, why are we talking about apple, man? Come on, I'm here for an architecture course and I'm here to do an induction program about communication. And, why are we talking about apple and waxy layer and cedar production and mythology and all of that? Any idea what we're getting to? And lo behold, now we are seeing an image of an apple also.
Like we have various ways to say about a thing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yes, what we are getting to is we are all different sorts of people, and given the different contexts, given different situations, there are three ways of communication that we will be resorting to most often. The first one is vocalize. I vocalized my thoughts on apple when I gave you those clues, when I told you the different qualities of that fruit. I verbalized my thoughts on apple when I gave you a write up. I put my thoughts down, I wrote it down in a certain sequence, I verbalized my thought. And finally, I visualized the object itself by presenting it to you in the form of a photograph, right? So, this sequence of vocalizing, verbalizing, and visualizing is something that you will follow very, very often, or you will follow all the time when you try and communicate in architecture. The most often used mode is the verbal communication, which is vocalizing your thoughts. Sometimes you will also end up writing, like you're making a concept statement, or you're writing your history notes, you're writing, your building construction notes. You will end up verbalizing your learning. And the large chunk of what you learn here in an architecture course, which is your architectural design projects, will be about visualization. So these are the three V's of communication that you really need to keep in mind. And to demonstrate this three stages, we use the simple example of an apple. You can take this forward to any object, you can take it forward to a building even, or even extrapolate it to a city level also. Are these three concepts clear?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
All right, great.
Yes, ma'am.
So please do remember these three. We will come back to it a little later after a couple of slides. Now, I'll just give you a brief introduction of myself again in a different way. Sapna ma'am has already given you my introduction. So, a large part of what I do is divided into four things. I would like to call myself an academician, an architect, and an architectural journalist. Um, a lot of my work is in the academic field. I also run my own firm. It's called Design Edge. I run a consultancy, and a branch of from that is this um, initiative called WEVID. It's called Weaving Enquiries in Design, where we run a lot of workshops and training programs for students, architects, educators, designers, and we incubate special programs. Like it could be about personality development, it could be about intellectual growth, um, offbeat subjects like architecture and typography. And vivid.in is the website. And like ma'am said, I'm also an architectural journalist. I'm a trained journalist, and I've written a couple of books. And I also do a lot of exhibitions, furniture design, graphic design. So this is me. All right. So this is introduction number 1. I'll give you a second introduction. So what you've known so far about me are 3 things: academician, architect, and a journalist. Now, if I have to go one more layer about me, I would say my hobbies are reading, writing, talking, and thinking. Yeah? Are you there with me?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Now I'll give you one more level more. I would say, my favorite, if I have to pick 4 favorite things in my life, I would say it's chai, drinking tea. I love buying and collecting pens. I love books, stationery, and yes, I'm a big fan of handloom and textiles. So there are 3 layers of me that you know right now. Okay? What are these 3 layers? Can anybody sort of put your thoughts into words and tell me? There are 3 parts of me that you know. There's no right or wrong. It's okay. What are the 3 parts of me that you know through these 3 introductions?
First one is professional.
Fantastic. Second one?
Your food habits.
Hobbies, your hobbies.
So, correct, but what aspect of me? My hobbies, yeah, okay. But what aspect of me? So first one is professional. What is this then?
Your food, like food.
My food choices, that is this third one. You're right. How can we
Your interest.
categorize these 2?
Interest.
Can you please repeat?
Interest.
Correct. My interests, both are my interests, right? But how can I categorize the one on the left and how do I categorize the one on the right? Are they the same? Is the one on the left and the one on the
Last
right
one
the
is
same?
personal.
Pardon?
Last
Personal.
one is personal.
Absolutely. So this last one is very personal, correct? Like I love to drink tea a lot, I love pens a lot. It's a very personal information that I'm sharing. True?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay. So
ma'am.
then what shall we call this? The fact that I love to read,
Profession.
write.
Profession.
It is still kind of professional, but it is also a little personal. Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not 100% professional. It is not like what I told you 2 slides earlier when I was talking of this. This was 100% professional. If I just stopped at this, you would not know anything about my chai. You would not know about my thinking. None of those, right? So this is 100% professional. The second layer of introduction maybe became quasi-professional and moving towards personal. But the third one was a completely personal. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So can we sort of categorize this as a formal communication, an informal or a casual communication, and a personal communication?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Great.
ma'am.
So these are the 3 levels of communication or thinking or talking or expression that you guys as future architects should be very cognizant of. Okay? Because what happens is that for any communication to be successful, there are different layers of revelation. You don't reveal everything at the first go, right? Suppose you're meeting a stranger in the metro or you're meeting a stranger in a flight, You will not say, hey, chai is my favorite thing, man. Do you want to share a chai with me? You won't do that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Or,
ma'am.
for example,
Yes,
if you're
ma'am.
talking to your
Yes, ma'am.
high school friend, you've all grown up now, you're having a 10th standard reunion, you won't come up and say, hi, nice to meet you. How are you doing? It's been a long time since we met. That will sound so weird, right? If you're meeting your friend, you'll say, "En macha hai gidya." You know, the whole point of conversation will be very different, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is it that we are getting to?
Yes, ma'am.
For any successful communication, there are two things that is absolutely important. One is your audience, and second is the context. So your audience primarily will determine what amount of information, what amount of communication will it be revealed. Now, has it been a professional audience? Then I'll probably stick to my formal introduction. Now, suppose I'm meeting a friend after a long time, or I'm trying to become friends with somebody, I will reveal the personal information. Suppose I'm meeting a colleague at, say, we are all having dinner, we are all sitting in a restaurant, then probably I will probably reveal the casual or the semi formal part of the topic. Are you getting it?
Yes, ma'am.
So you have to be
Yes, ma'am.
cognizant about the
Yes, ma'am.
audience that you're talking to or you're communicating it. When I say talking, I mean you could be writing, you could be talking, you could be visualizing. The three V's hold here. And the context also makes a lot of importance. Suppose you're talking to your boss in an office. Tomorrow you're going to be working for an architect, or let's say you're talking to a client in a meeting. Okay, it's a conference room, you're talking to a client, so the audience becomes your client and the context becomes a project presentation. What will be your layer of revelation? Will it be formal, will it be casual, or will it be personal?
Formal.
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 Great. Now
Formal.
after the meeting, the client and you go out for lunch in a restaurant. What will be your layer of communication?
Casual.
Informal.
Casual.
Informal.
Informal or casual.
Okay. At any point,
Formal.
will you be doing personal talk with your client?
No.
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 Okay, great, great. So do you understand the context and the audience? So it is not just because he is a client
Yes.
or she is a client, even in a restaurant scenario, you will be talking formal stuff. You'll probably move on to something which is casual or a little semi-formal, but you will never cross the boundary to get into personal talk, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Exactly. So why am I sort of bringing this up? If you are cognizant, conscious about who your audience is and what is the context in which you're talking, your communication becomes appropriate and it reveals itself successfully. The problem, what most of the students have, at least in the first year, is to place the audience in the context. Because sometimes what happens, the kind of teachers you would have had so far, or the kind of communication that you've had so far, especially in a school or a college scenario, is extremely formal. Do you all agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So it is, maybe some of you have gone to I don't know, coaching centers like Allen or whatever. There it is even more alienated. Even the little personal touch that you probably had in college or school is not even there in those centers, right?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So what you're not exposed to is the informal or the casual kind of conversations that you will pick up a lot in this course. Definitely it will not go personal, okay, but it may not be formal all the time. And for most of the situations, the student grapples around turning from the formal way of communicating and talking to the informal. So many of the times you might just catch your teacher in the corridor and have a conversation, and that might be something that you will learn from. You may not have them formally sit and give you instructions, but they might leave you with clues to think about and say, read this up, look at this project, think about it. Tell me what you're going to be designing. What is your design concepts? So a lot of conversations might end up at an informal level, but that is still a very valid learning, and that is still a form of communication that you should pick up. But when you're doing a formal presentation in a jury, so you have your examiners, you have your architects who have come to evaluate your project, then you have to switch over to the formal style of communication or the formal way of revealing. But maybe with your classmates and friends, it could still be here at a very personal level. You guys could even be chatting and talking and discussing your projects at a very personal level. This switch over between the different layers of revelation based on the audience and the context is the art of successful communication, which each one of you should consciously develop. Nobody will put you in a class and teach you formally. It is how you pick these little things by observation, which is what is going to make a difference. Yeah? Are we good so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Great. All right. Fantastic. Have you all heard this term, once upon a time?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
Yes,
sure
ma'am.
all of us would have heard it at
Yes,
some
ma'am.
point, right? It's like, what does it remind you of?
Story, any story.
Any story? And when did you hear the story? Definitely not in your teenage, right? Yeah. So when did you sort of come upon this term, this phrase?
Childhood.
Largely in your childhood. Exactly. But tell me, did we get bored of this term? Did we get bored of hearing this term? Every
Yes.
time you said once upon
No.
a time, maybe your
No.
grandmother said it, maybe your kindergarten teacher said it, maybe the books that you read said it. Did it bore you the minute you read this phrase and you were like, oh my God, man, it's once upon a time again? Did we ever do that?
No, ma'am.
Why?
No, ma'am.
Why
No,
is
ma'am.
it that even on repeated usage, once upon a time never bored us? Why do you think so?
Because we thought there would be something interesting coming up or something.
Precisely. There was a magical moment that would come after once upon a time, right? Although once upon a time as a phrase itself might not have excited you, it is what was coming after that is what caused you the excitement. Is it right?
Yes, ma'am.
Great, great. So I'm just got sort of taking you back a little bit to understand. So we're going back to vocalize, verbalize, and visualize. Is that throughout our childhood, the first skill that you picked up as a child was listening. It could be listening to your grandparents, listening to your uncles and aunts, to your parents, your siblings. The first skill that you picked up as a child was listening. The second one was talking. You started imitating what people at home were doing. That's how you picked up your mother tongue, as they call it. What are they saying? What does this word mean? What does that word mean? Why are they saying that to you? A lot of times the words were simplified because your tongue was not rolling enough for you to make those syllables. So it was by listening that you learned to talk. And because you learned listening and talking, slowly you started reading. A for apple, B for bat, or your A, I, E. The reading came as the third skill that you picked up, and it is only much later that you started writing. It's when the hand started getting its ability to hold the grip, and the cursive. You all remember that?
Ma'am, you're not clear. Your voice is breaking.
Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes.
great. I was saying, do you all remember your 4-line book? A friend in need is a friend indeed. The cursive writing, the copywriting that you did over and over.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yeah. Why was that done? Why did you have to repeatedly write the same word or the same alphabets in cursive writing for an entire page for God knows how many books, copywriting books that we did? Why do you think it was done?
To become perfect?
No, before we become perfect, we had to practice, right? We had to sort of teach this hand of ours how to do it many, many times because it had to become an involuntary action. After we did our cursive writing, we did our A for apple, B for bat, then we moved on to friend in need as a friend indeed. And then we came to a point where you were asked to write, the first day of any school, you were asked to write an essay of how you spent your holidays. Do you all remember that?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
It was like, the very first assignment that you would get is, this is how I spent my holidays. You had to write. So when you came to that state where you were writing essays out, you were not thinking whether is this A, is this B, is this C. Your hand automatically wrote, and what you were focusing on was the thought process behind that writing. Yes, your handwriting was fixed, your knowledge of writing was fixed. What came out is the higher order thinking or the thoughts behind the write up. Yes?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So it's not like in your board exams you were sitting and thinking, wait, how do I write Z? How do I write Y? How do I write G? We weren't doing that, right? We were thinking of something higher. Now, what is the point we're trying to get to? The act of training yourself, whether it is by training your hand for visualizing, it is to train your mind to verbalize or to train your tongue to vocalize. It has to happen with a conscious practice over and over and over again. And also, please understand the drawing and visual communication. Remember, these were some of the sketches that we did as kids,
Yes.
these scribbles, which probably meant nothing. Guess what? We're going to go all the way back to these kind of sketches and drawings all over again in this course. And this is going to be a little hard for all of us to pick up because drawing and visual communication was a skill that we picked up much, much later, sometimes
Yes,
maybe
ma'am.
even after we started learn to write. Okay. So in the list of skill sets for this particular course, the visual skill is the highest rated. That is the one that will require your maximum effort, your maximum energy, and is the toughest to learn. And that is where your entire college curriculum, your teachers, everybody will focus on. But in the process, in the whole communication process, for you to express your thinking, you will also have to pick up the verbal skills, the writing skills, and the non-verbal skills. Now, these three may not come consciously, but it will come unconsciously depending on how sensitive, sensible, and quick learner you are. And hence, this whole session is trying to get your attention to it. Because if your communication process is not mastered, then to get your output through your whole process of implementation of your thoughts, getting an output where you can communicate. Now, for example, I could be thinking an apple and you could be thinking an orange. How do I communicate the apple to you? I'll have to use one of these skills, right? I'll have to either draw it out, or I'll have to talk it out, or I'll have to write about it, or I'll have to do my sign languages to sort of make you understand. So if these four skills are not mastered, your communication process is going to get a huge hit. And if that gets a hit, your translation from the thinking to an output is going to be extremely hindered. Is this point clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. And the whole once upon a time analogy was given because we learned this in the reverse order. As kids, the first thing we learned was the non-verbal gestures. We probably learned talking next, then we learned writing, and the last we learned was the drawings. So, because we have picked these skills in the reverse order, you're going to find it that much more. You're going to pick it up also. The focus also is in the reverse order because you picked up drawings much later. The focus of the course is going to be on the drawings, the maximum. Nobody is going to focus so consciously on your non-verbal skills, which is your body language, because that's probably the first skill that we all picked up as kids, right? Are you all putting this whole learning in context? Are you all clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have to also develop this consciously now in the reverse process in the way we have discussed so far. So what are these skills really? What is it that I have to pick up? So your visual communication can be through one or all of these. It could be through your sketches, it could be through drawings, you'll be making physical models, you'll also maybe towards your final years start picking up renders, you will do a lot of graphics. It could even be infographics. Today we see a lot of graphic design and architecture sort of blending over. You could be doing furniture design. So these are the different modes of visual communication which you will have to pick up. Now, this is something that your college will definitely take along with you, take you along and say, hey, this is how you make models, this is how you make sketches, this is how you draw. So this is a skill set that will come. Okay. So this is one mode of communication that you will have to master. Without your visual mode of communication, you really can't be an architect. What is the next one? What is the next mode? The next one is verbal. There is going to be a lot of jargons. There's going to be a lot of terms that we use in architecture. Okay. Initially, you may find it very weird. Like, for example, I put a box here. Imagine if somebody didn't say the word mango and said, do you want to eat a magnifera indica? How would you feel? Say, I'm not a science student. You'd wonder, what the hell is this magnifera indica, man? Right? Because what you know of it is a mango. Or say your doctor, you went to a doctor with a problem and they said, hey, you have viral rhinitis. It sounds very fancy, but all that the person is trying to say is it's a common cold, right? Or instead of using the word profit, most of the sales and the management people use the word ROI or return on investment. So every profession has their own lingo, language, jargon, terms that is very specific to that profession. Are you all with me so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So these terminologies, these jargons, these terms that we use a lot in architecture is something that you have to pick up on your own, and it is on your own only. How do I get to know this? One of the ways is to read. You have to read a lot of books. Now, are there textbooks which will tell me this? Sorry, no textbook will say, beta, uh, this is what a facade means. Beta, this is what is parametric architecture. Beti yellow, this is what is threshold. This is what a skin means. So you will not find a textbook which will tell you these terminologies. This is not like a sine theta or a cos theta kind of a definition. But in the way your teachers talk, in the way the juries are conducted, in the way your discussions will happen, and in reading all these books on architecture, you will be picking up these terms. And the more you pick up, the more relevant will your language in architecture become. It is not to faff around, it is not to show off, it is not to sort of make your talk sound hi-fi, but it is really the language of architecture that you need to pick up. So if model making, sketching, and all that was your visual communication, your verbal communication has to be targeted towards learning these terms and words. Okay. And you will also find some of the concepts which initially you might find very weird, like, for example, push and pull. What push and pull for me is all that it is meant to be on a door, man. Like, what is push and pull in architecture? You will know. What is positive, negative in architecture? You will know. What is bottom up and top down? We only know that for scrolling on a screen, but hey, so these are some of the concepts which you will probably use in your day-to-day life, but have a very different annotation, a very different expression when it comes to architecture. So your verbal communication has to sort of pick up these terms. Okay, so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Then the third one is writing. Now, this again is something that you will have to pick up with a lot of reading and observation. There will be a lot of unusual terms, a lot of simple words. Like, for example, you say, this building has a very dynamic feel to it. Now, dynamic in a regular sense is got a very different feel. Or, for example, the fabric of a city. Now, what is fabric to me? Fabric to me is textile. But when my teacher says the fabric of a city, you've got to understand that it means differently. So the way you write about architecture also has to be with this different set of vocabulary. Again, the faster you learn it, the better it is. Now, coming to the last part, which is your non-verbal. Now, this again is extremely, extremely important. I cannot stress this anymore, because you as an architect will be talking to a maestri on this site, to the CEO of a firm. That is the gamut of people that you will be dealing with in your as a designer or as an architect. So your body language, the way you carry yourself, how are you talking, how are you presenting, becomes extremely important. Your facial expressions, your gestures, your hand gestures, your body gestures, then your voice modulation, or what we call as paralinguistics. How loud are you? What is the tone of your voice? How confident do I look? How do I present myself? What is a kind of personal space, right? Some people knowingly, unknowingly, tend to stand too close to each other, or they tend to stand too far from each other. What is a good personal space? Again, how confident do I look? How do I present myself? What is the tone of my voice?
Ma'am, we can't hear you, ma'am.
Yeah, I've informed her. Just give us 2 minutes.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
really, really sorry about that glitch.
No
Um,
problem.
are you able to see my presentation, or shall I share again?
You'll have to share again, ma'am.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm really sorry for this.
No problem.
Okay. Where we were? You lost me?
Ma'am, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So uh, did I sort of finish this? Did you all hear me talk about this? The non-verbal.
About half of it.
Okay. Okay, great. So the point I was saying was, your non-verbal communication, which is basically your facial expressions, whether you're happy or you're sad, the way you sort of, roll your eyes, your hand gestures, your whole paralinguistics, which is the tone of your voice, or how loud, how clear are you, your body language, which is how confident do you present yourself, personal space, again, how close or far do you stand from each other. Some people, largely introverts, tend to be very, very away from people, but some people are okay sort of huddling and working together. So personal spaces also make a difference. Your eye gaze, that is your eye contact, which a lot of millennials don't do today. It's when you're talking to somebody, they're looking somewhere else, or you're looking at your phone. Eye contact is a very, very strong way to make a person feel that what you're talking is impactful. okay, and appearance and artifacts. So you will realize that there are a lot of things that architects are very particular about, or they take a fancy to, like sketchbooks or wearing black, or there is a certain way that they dress up, there's a certain way they talk, round rim glasses. So you will realize as in when you progress that there's a typical architect look that many of us have. So these are the things which comes under your non-verbal communication. Is it clear so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So, if we go back to the three things that we have learned so far, which is verbalize, which is the other one? What are the three V's of communication? Can one of you repeat?
Vocalize, verbalize, visualize.
Fantastic. So, what are these three? Your visual representation largely comes from the creative side. Okay. Your verbal representation is very intuitive. It is what you think and feel, and you start talking about it without conscious, without being it comes to you very naturally. Your written or your linguistic representation is where your critical thinking or your deeper thinking is expressed. And where do I really use it? Okay, man, I've learned all this communication. This person is trying to make a point, I get it, I will pick it up, and when I pick it, where am I going to use it? Your visual presentation is going to be used largely in your design drawings. You design talk, be it with your teachers, your peers, in a jury, is where your verbal presentation communication is used. Your write-ups, like I said, it could be in history, it could be in design, is where you will use your linguistic representation. And all of these three things put together is what you will use in your design jury, and that will be the whole essence of what we call as design communication. Is this clear?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Now we have a very quick activity before we wind up this lecture. So this is going to be a whole discussion based. Do you all recognize what you see?
Yes,
A
ma'am.
kettle.
Yes, ma'am.
Kettle.
Correct. What is it?
A kettle.
Great. Now, everybody is familiar with this. You have seen it at some point of time in your life.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you another one. What is this now?
Same kettle.
It is also a kettle. Now, between the one on your left and right, which is a better design and why? Now, remember, in this, you cannot say, I like it, it's cool, it's nice. None of those general terms can be used. You will have to tell me between the two kettles, which is a better design or which is a good design and why.
Second one, ma'am. Because it has a handle.
The one on the right is a better one.
Can you all hear me?
Hello, ma'am.
Ma'am, we can't hear you, ma'am.
I have informed her. Just 2 minutes. And she'll be rejoining.
Okay.
Hi. Really, really sorry. I don't know why this is happening. Can you see my screen or shall I present?
We are able to see.
Okay, great. All right. So tell me which, the one on the right or the one on the left?
Now we can't see.
You can't see.
We can see now.
Yeah, we can.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So you can see it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We can see.
All right, great. So which one? One on the left or one on the right, and why?
One on the right, ma'am.
The one on the right.
You got to be a little quicker. I'm not asking you NASA questions or it is not your trigonometry questions. It's a very simple one. I have two kettles. Which of the two do I like more and why?
The right one because it has a plastic handle which is heat resistant.
Huh?
The one on the right because it has
Pardon?
a plastic handle which is heat resistant.
Okay, so this is better because you are able to hold it, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Is this better or is this better? The tea and the coffee comes out through the beak of the duck. Which of the two is better? Which is a better design?
Second one, ma'am.
Duck? Hey guys, come on, be a little more expressive. There's nothing right or wrong. It's
Second one, ma'am.
Hello. Excuse me, ma'am.
and that is what you think it is.
Ma'am, you're lagging.
Whoever said the duck? If you don't reply it,
Your video is, your voice is lagging.
what's happening?
Your voice.
My voice is an issue again. Okay. Let me try this. Okay, is this better? Am I back?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I really don't know why this happening. Many apologies. Okay, let's wind this up. Which of the two?
Both, ma'am.
That cannot be a reply, because remember, as architects and designers, we all have an opinion and we are going to sort of articulate it. Only one. Which of the two?
The one on the right,
Which, the duck or the fish?
the duck.
Why the duck?
Because the design is kind of creative and it looks
Okay, so is the fish.
realistic. Yeah,
The fish
The
is
one
up
on
for
the right,
that.
the right, the right, right.
Okay,
the one on
I'm
the
saying
right. Why?
the one on
Why?
the right,
Because
that is the duck, right?
yeah, the duck has a better like the fish has a round base, which would be difficult to place it on the table or some kind of
Okay.
place. But the duck can be placed anywhere.
See, from a functional point of view, are you saying this from a functional point of view?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Now I'll show you two more. This or this, which is better?
The right one, ma'am.
Left.
Which one? The one with the bamboo handle?
One. Yes, ma'am.
From left side.
Why?
The one on the left.
It has
Okay.
more design which makes us more
The one,
attractive.
okay, the one on the right who say the bamboo handle, why is that better?
Ma'am, because the design and the finishing is good. Even in the left one, it has a good designs, but like when the dirt and all sits on that one, it's very tough to clean that one. But in the right side one, it's easy. I'm not able to hear you, ma'am.
We can't hear you, ma'am.
The one on the left. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Some of you who said the one on the left, no? This is this image, the one that is a stone kettle. Why is one better?
Ma'am, because it
It is
has
more
more.
sturdy.
Because it's more sturdy. Okay. This or this, which is better?
Right.
The one on the right side.
Right one.
The red one? See, again, are you conscious of the way you are saying and describing? I said, is it the red one? And you said the right one, right? So be a little more conscious in the way you articulate yourself. Why is the red kettle better?
Because the handle has an insulation
Okay.
and even the color combination is nice.
Okay. So you're talking of
appealing.
aesthetics and function. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. This or this. This is your last set. Now both are the same Aliseed bird tea kettle. Which of the two is better and why?
The right one, ma'am. Because
Why?
it has larger volume.
Okay. What if I said it's just a photo trick? Both of them are the same size.
Again, it's the right one.
Why?
Because that the symbol or the what the
The
what do you call
detailing
it?
on the whistle?
Yes, ma'am. That golden thing on that.
Okay, that is what is making it better.
Yes, ma'am. It looks catchy.
Okay, great. So what did we do so far? What is it that we were trying to establish so far? Were we trying to sort of debate on what were the different approaches to this design? Sometimes we said it was functional, sometimes we spoke about material, we spoke about maintenance, we spoke about concepts, we sometimes even went to the idea of how formal or nice or visually aesthetically pleasing it looks, right? So we were in the whole process, it was not really about the kettle that we were talking about. We were talking about the different approaches to design because we were trying to figure out what makes each of these kettles different from the other. Are we together so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what we were trying to do is we were trying to talk of concepts versus a very general kind of a talk. We were trying to talk of left kettle versus right kettle, but if you realize, I was trying to push your conversation towards, is it aesthetic, is it functional, is it about the color, is it about the looks, is it about the size, is it about memory? Like when we spoke about the the duck kettle versus the fish kettle, there was a strong sense of memory, a strong sense of childhood also which came back. So there was a memory recall moment also that kept happening. So the point is that for any communication to be successful, it needs to be articulate. Now, what do we talk when we say articulate? You have to express your idea in a creative, in a logical, and in a very short way that it is effective enough for the other person to understand. Are we okay so far? Did you get the point? Did you get the logic of this whole exercise?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Then there are the last three things that I want to share with you and finish this talk. These are called rule of three and elevator pitch. Have you come across this ever? Have you read about it? Do you know about it?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
None of you?
No, ma'am.
Okay. This is largely a sales or a management terminology or a concept, but it is used very much in design. And trust me, guys, if there is a Pesa Vasool moment where if there is like one thing that I will take forward from this talk for the rest of my career, it is this. If you can learn these three concepts that I'm going to share henceforth for life, then you have really, really mastered your communication. Okay. So let's go to the rule of three. Can you see what is happening? So get, set, go. I love you. Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Faster, higher, stronger, which is the Olympic motto. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Mera Bharat Mahan. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Past, present, future. What is happening? Can you tell me the pattern? Good, bad, ugly. Your three
Three
monkeys.
words.
Pardon?
Three
What is
words.
that? Three words. Exactly. Everything that is being said is said in a set of three. Body, mind, spirit, healthy, wealthy, wise. Even your Apna Time Aayega or Rajmouli's next movie, RRR, your Shah Rukh Khan, it is SRK, it is not SK. He doesn't call himself SK, it is SRK. Or your Sushant Singh Rajput, SSR. Why is it that when anything said in three is so effective? Which is why even today's lecture had the three V's: vocalize, verbalize, and visualize. Why is it? Why is it that we are talking about this rule of three? Any idea?
No, ma'am.
It is because this is the most powerful tool that your mind can process. So, the way the mind is wired is no matter what you say, it tries to break it down into three compartments. So, anything said in sets of three is very, very powerful and very, very impactful. If you say anything more than that, your brain automatically reduces it to three things and registers it. So you can sort of say many things, but remember that the way the wiring of the mind works is that it brings it down to three things. That is why you see any of Modi's programs that he's launching, I mean, he's one guy who's mastered this rule of three. Anything that he talks is in just these three words. Any program that is getting launched has got 3 words. You can use it anywhere, even in your life. You can say I love you very much, but it's not as impactful as saying I love you. Or you can say I hate you a lot. You can just say I hate you. It's got much 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 more power. So do you get this whole point of rule of 3?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So always remember this, that when you're trying to address or when you're trying to present your concept, don't talk of 10 different things that your design is made of. Like you could go back to this whole kettle discussion that we had. If I were to say which of the two is better, even if you say point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, this is why the kettle is better. Trust me, it's going to be a lot more impactful. Okay, instead of rattling off and saying 100 different things, collect your thoughts, vocalize in a way that you're talking of 3 most important things first. Talk in sets of 3. So you say, okay, I have done this design because I've tried to achieve 1, 2, and 3. After you've done discussing with that, then maybe you go on to the next set of 3. So even in terms of your conference papers, even if you see your you can see this example used everywhere, right? From television serial names to programs to anywhere, they very consciously bring it down to 3 things. Even your Obama's campaign, change we believe in, you can see anywhere in history, 3 things said in one go is the most powerful way to communicate. Is this clear to all of you?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Great. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the second concept that you need to pick up for life is what we call as the elevator pitch. Okay, what is an elevator pitch? Now, imagine that you are getting into a lift or an elevator, as they call, and this is Obama waiting to go from the second floor to the 4th floor. Okay, and how long do you think this movement in the lift will take? How long do you think it will take you to go from second floor to 4th floor? 10 seconds? 20 seconds?
20. 10 to
Okay,
20 seconds.
10 to 20 seconds. Great. So imagine if you get that 20 seconds to talk about your idea and convince Obama that your idea is the best. What you say in that 20 seconds is what we call as the elevator pitch. In other words, if I cannot tell my idea to another person in 30 seconds or less, then I don't even have an idea. This is the general belief of an elevator pitch. Again, like you were talking of the rule of 3, the elevator pitch again is a very strong communication tool wherein anything said in brevity, anything said in a very compact, full way has a lot more impact because you're going to leave out all the fluff. You're only going to talk about your core idea. You're going to come to the point really, really quick. And that, my dear friends, is what we call as the elevator pitch. And you're only going to talk about the big question when you're doing an elevator pitch. So always open your juries, open your discussions, open your talk with that one big question as an elevator pitch. And you can use the rule of 3 in talking about that. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, great. Now, the last one for the day is what we call as the Higgs law. That is, no matter how much amount of information that you give out, there is a certain cognitive load. There's a certain amount of information that your brain can take in, and it breaks it up into compartments. Like, for example, even if you give out your phone number, you will say it in sets of 5 digits, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Will
Yes,
say
ma'am.
whatever 98455 and pause. Then you give the next set of numbers. Why is it that we do that? So Apple is one company which has mastered Higgs law like nobody's business. They take care of your cognitive load the best. So if you actually see a particular remote, it is only this many buttons that you need. You don't really need the rest of them at all. So the point is, when you're communicating, like you're going to be cognizant of your audience, your context, You should also be aware of how much of information you're giving. Sometimes we tend to give more than what the other person can process or what the other person can take. So remember that retention and cognition is also very, very key in communication. So the last slide for the day, to sum it all up, whatever we have understood so far, some of the tips and pointers for all of you going forward. Please always ask yourself before you communicate, is this making sense to me? If I don't get it, how am I going to expect the others to understand? Whether you make a drawing, whether you do a write up, whether you're talking, always please ask yourself, is this going to make sense to me first? All right. Then your visual and your written communication, always aim for it to be self explanatory. Imagine you're not there to talk about it. What if your drawing is put up and you don't get a chance to talk about it? What if your writing is put and you don't get a chance to explain it? Always do the visual and the written communication in a self explanatory way. Your verbal communication should be a value addition to that. It cannot become a crutch. You cannot be relying on your words to explain your drawing or explain your write up. It has to be self explanatory. Point number 3, practice, practice, practice. Remember your 4-line copywriting books. Practice makes a man perfect. It also makes you less anxious. It makes you less stressed. It makes you a better communicator. It is absolutely okay to make notes. If you have to talk in a jury tomorrow, if you have to present your ideas, it's okay to write your points down, talk from it, and definitely practice in front of the mirror. There is no substitute to it. Okay. Then the last and the most important point is how you take criticism in your creative field. There is going to be a lot of it coming, my friends. There's going to be a lot of it. You will find your designs ripped apart. You will find your work being sort of completely shaken. You would have probably spent 3 nights coming up with design, and there could be many, many valid points that you've completely forgotten or not taken care of. And when you go up in a jury, your juror might bring the whole thing down and say, hey buddy, look, you didn't do this, and for those reasons your designs is not going to work. In that scenario, raise your argument, not your defense. Okay, so you have to be very conscious that going forward, it's an extremely subjective field that you have gotten into. 2 plus 2 can also be 6, 2 plus 2 can also be 10. It is not engineering to say 2 plus 2 is 4. So don't raise your voice to defend. It is about improving your logic and argument and not getting emotional really about the feedback that you get. If you're not open to constructive criticism, you will really, really not grow as an architect. And developing constructive criticism comes from successful communication. Okay, so I'm going to sort of end my talk with this slide. Please accept compliments and criticism because it takes both the sun and the rain for a flower to grow. Okay, any questions? This is some of my details, my email ID, my phone number, my website, and my Insta account. So feel free to contact me. I would love to hear your feedback about today's talk. You can get in touch with me at any point for anything. And if you would like to know more about our workshops and the training that we do, please feel free to get in touch with me. So I will end my talk with this. And thank you, ma'am, Sapna ma'am, and Priyanka ma'am. Thanks for giving me an opportunity. Sorry for the little, the hiccups that we had in between for my connection. Thanks for your patience, and I hope this was a interesting talk and you did learn a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah, ma'am.
ma'am.
Great. So I'm open for questions. Priyanka ma'am, do we have like maybe 5-10 minutes to discuss a few things? If
Yeah,
they
ma'am.
have,
Yeah.
great, great. Any questions? What are your thoughts after the talk? And nothing to talk or discuss. Trust me, guys, this is one profession where the more vocal you are, the more you will learn. So, silence is safe is an attitude that you will have to leave back for school and college. Yes, Kishan did raise a hand. Yeah, Kishan?
Hel- Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
I just have a small question about your website.
Yes.
You say
Yes.
it's their knowledge, skill, and awareness. For knowledge, you have
Uh-huh.
represented a face, and for skill, it's a hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for awareness, why is heart shaped by? It's helpful,
Okay.
mindful.
Okay. Okay.
Usually, we represent
So
that symbol
simple.
for health
Knowledge.
or.
Yes. So the thing for awareness is, for knowledge it is the face because largely it's the brain and it's the intellectual thinking. For skill sets, it's the hand because it's about doing things. It's whether you call it time management to drawing to model making, it's about doing. And large is about the awareness component, which is the heart, because ultimately that is what you identify a human being with, right? It's what you think and feel that makes you a person. So that is the reason why we picked those three icons. Did that answer your question?
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any questions for today? Aishwarya, Sanjana, Syed, Vaibhav, what are your thoughts? What did you learn? There's no marks for it. For all you know, you may not see me also again. So it's okay. You can relax and talk.
What are the tips you will give us to face the jury, ma'am?
Sure. Okay. Did you find this useful?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
Ma'am, is there some correlation between verbalizing and vocalizing?
Yes. At least it does for me as a person, because a lot of my writing has helped my talking. Okay. It could be something as simple as maintaining a diary, maintaining a journal, or just randomly writing your thoughts out. Because what it does is it clarifies your thought. Sometimes, see, when you're talking to a friend, you can start talking about Tokyo and go to Afghanistan. It's okay. It's your friend and you can blabber and you just keep going on and on and on. But when you get into a professional circle, when you get into a jury, when you start talking to your clients, when you start talking to your teachers, you have to be very articulate in the way you talk, and you have to be very um, clear and compartmentalized and sequenced in your expression. You can't be rambling. So for me, verbalizing and vocalizing go together, because the more I write, the more it clarifies my thinking and it helps me structure it. I may not even share my writing with anybody, for all you know, but at least my vocabulary increases, my thought process increases, and it helps me structure my thinking in a certain way. And because I write, when I talk, that same structure and confidence and sequencing comes automatically when I'm talking. So these two, and reading, I can't tell you guys how much reading is a lost art today. I mean, we're so hooked on to our Insta and WhatsApp and Snapchats and all of that, that sort of killed this whole art of reading. Even if you're reading on Kindle, just read. FB, Insta is not reading. Okay, so do get into the habit of reading, and that will help your communication a lot. Any one last question? I know we have sort of overshot by half an hour, Sapna ma'am, as you predicted.
I told you.
Ma'am she did say that it's going to go definitely more than 1 hour, and then as ma'am predicted, it happened. But I think it's for the good. So it's okay.
I have a question, ma'am. See,
Sure.
some of us are not very comfortable with English as a mode of communication.
Yes, yes.
There's a good bit of us because from our primary education and all that, English
Absolutely.
has not been a medium of learning, and
Correct.
we have not spoken. Now, what is your advice for those set of children who have not learned? I mean, actually, grammatically, they form better sentences, but they don't have the confidence to talk. For such people, what would your advice be?
Yes. There are two things. One, there is absolutely no rule that English is the language of communication for architecture. That's a myth. It's absolutely a myth. If you go see in Kerala, it has more magazines in Malayalam on architecture than the entire country put together in English. Their Malayalam magazines on design and architecture is really of such good quality and such good expression that the English writings should sort of, take a point or clue from them. So it is absolutely not required. It is not a mandatory thing. It's a common perception that, if you're talking in English, you're more cool. But no, it is not at all required. In fact, you will realize that once you start practicing and you start going out into the profession, English is probably the last thing that you will use. If you're talking to your maestri on your site, you probably are using Hindi for your carpenter, you're using Tamil for your mason, you're using Kannada for your electrician, and maybe in the boardroom when you sit in front of the CEO, maybe you will use English. So absolutely not. English is not at all something that should hold your communication back. But say, okay, fine, for whatever reasons, it's a necessary evil. We cannot run away from it. What do? I write it down. I write my points down. I rehearse it in the front of a mirror. And if I'm still not confident, even in the jury, it is okay to hold a piece of paper and go from point to point to point. It is not a shameful act. You're not, I mean, come on, Biden and Kamala Harris also gets clues to talk, right? I mean, they also have their cues that is coming in. So you're not being trained to become an orator. You're getting trained to become a designer as an architect. So what is important for you is how you convey the confidence and the clarity with which you convey. And for that, if you have to use props like a piece of paper or you have to rehearse it, why not? Absolutely, why not? And I don't think that's sort of like a crutch.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you may sort of there have been moments even in thesis jury in a lot of juries where the student has requested, is it okay if I talk in another language, like um, maybe can I talk in Kannada, or I'm more conversant and confident, or in this language, is it okay if I do that? And if the juror is fine, man, have a party, who cares? It's not necessary that you have to do it. One other trick that has worked as an academician is pick a buddy with whom you can talk in English, and that person will not judge you. It could be right from your grandmother who really also can't understand, to maybe your classmate, to your neighbor, to anybody. Just pick someone and keep rattling off in English. It could be broken English, it could be any form of English. Just keep talking. The more you talk, the more you will become confident. And nobody is going to judge you based on how good you speak it. And we've had students even in RV where we had to we made a buddy in class and said, for this fellow will stand there and keep giving him prompts. And it does happen. Although I have written it down and I have point number 1, 2, 3, maybe the jury will come and attack my first point so badly that I might get completely hassled and say, yo, what happened? And I might lose second and three. But it is okay to tell the juror, yes, I see your point. I know I've messed up this. I know I haven't done this. But can I go to my second, third, and fourth point? Because these are what I had thought. So it's okay to get the jury back to your discussion also. It is not offensive. It is not rude. You acknowledge their point and then you bring them back to the points that you have to say. So coming back to this buddy system, so we did have one student I remember very, very vividly. throughout his lower semesters, we had one buddy who would stand. So just seeing his friend stand there next to his sheets would give him confidence. That he would do nothing. He would not hold placards, give clues, nothing. He would just stand with him, next to him in the jury, and that would give a lot of confidence. Or he would sit in front of him somewhere where the eye contact would be with that friend, because seeing somebody else would make him nervous. He would always see his friend and talk, and we were all okay with it. But by the time he came to the final year, he was like a rock star. He had mastered this whole process of verbalizing and vocalizing so much, he didn't need the clue at all. So that's another way to sort of work around it. Yeah? Okay. Anything else, or shall we wind up with this? Any other questions? Any other thoughts? So my rock stars of communications are ready, ma'am?
Yes, definitely.
Great. All right. So can you all, ma'am, is it okay? Can we do one last group photo kind of a thing?
Sure.
That's okay.
Priyanka?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm doing it.
Yes. For record. So I can show them when they come to the final year that, I met you in your first year.
I request everyone to please keep your cameras on. I can still see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's
Diksha Rakshak, right?
Prithvi
Rakshak.
Naik? Prithvi
Great.
Naik? Prithvi Naik, can you please keep your camera on? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, smile. Just one more second. I will take one more shot. Everybody, please keep your cameras on. All faculties as well. Sandeep sir, MSA Research Cell. Sure.
Hello, tell me.
Yeah, I've switched it on.
So we'd love to see you, Sandeep sir, again. That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
We're missing seeing you.
I was said something of my
All set?
Rakshita, I guess, no?
Yeah, she's not coming in the frame.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think.
All right. Fantastic.
Yes.
So you've one final thought. You've made the absolute right choice with your college decision. You have a fantastic set of people who are going to take care of you. I can vouch for them. Sapna ma'am is very, very capable. She's going to take good care of you. So all the best for your 5 years of architecture. And hopefully I'll cross paths with you sometime soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe this was.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank you,
Sapna
ma'am.
ma'am. Thanks, Priyanka.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. In
Yes.
fact, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for this wonderful session and this opportunity that we got to learn and interact with you. It was really inspiring to me as a faculty, and I'm sure for the students, it was really a wonderful session, head start on how to go about the whole architectural course and their future as an architect. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this wonderful session, and we're definitely looking forward for many more such sessions with you.
My pleasure always. Yeah. My pleasure. And yes, Sapna ma'am,
Thank you.
will be
Thank you.
for sure.
Thank you, Nandita.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
yes, we will definitely, these children will definitely cross roads. In fact, with you during their 5 years, and if not once, definitely more than once also.
Yes,
I would want each of our batch to have had one session with you at least, because the perspective that you give to them has always been, what to say, our students have always given a very positive feedback of your sessions. And forget their feedback, I've also felt the same. So we'll definitely cross roads with you more and more. Had you been in Mysore, then we would have said, Nandita, please stick to
I
MSA.
know.
shift
I know.
actually. Shift.
Yeah.
Mysore. Bangalore is going from that to us. You shift.
I know. I think maybe it's time I move to Mysore. It's
Yeah.
enough of full board, enough of Bangalore nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All the
ma'am.
best, guys.
Bye.
Be my rock stars and have a good time. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.